16, right. So that we memorized. That one that's. So now near doubles means adjacent numbers and their reverse. 8 plus 8 is what? 16. Then the next one has to be 17. All right, and here, double the smaller number, 8 plus 8, 16, and one more has to be 17. These tend to be very tricky ones. They have a hard time with these. And your answer has to be odd. Near doubles will be odd, doubles will be even. And our last one is 9 plus 9. And remember, it's not many problems. And once you've mastered this on the board with, like that, 9 plus 9 is what? Double it? 18. We studied the doubles, we memorized those. There were only about 7 of them, right? Because the others fit a simpler strategy. So then we go, well, when you get to 9, you've already done that because you've done 9, you have to go down. You can't go up to 10. So we did the 9s, we know the 9s, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be 9 plus 8 because we're not going into 10. So that's it, folks. We did that before. We already did that before. That's what happens in the times tables. The next one, it's just one more. That's it. So this is double the 8, 16 plus 9, right? 17. And double the 8. Very little to learn. So then you go down the sheet, and then you have to be really sharp wherever you see a number that's adjacent to the next number. 3 plus 2 near doubles, 5 plus 6 near doubles. You have the children spot those near doubles. 5 plus 4, 6 plus 5. You have to be, it really sharpens the brain. You'll see 4 plus 5. 8 plus 7. 8 plus 9. 9 plus 8. 7 plus 8. Not that many. So what do they do then? 3 plus 2, double the 2, 4, 5 is my answer. And look for numbers that are adjacent. I use the near double strategy. 5 plus 6, double the 5, plus 1, 10. It just keeps them alert. And boy, they're alert because they're scanning now and they're looking for the strategies, right? And then eventually, when they know all of them, then they practice drilling this a row at a time with speed. You go across the row, no mistakes, and how fast. And they identify the strategy. Near doubles, this is memory group, plus 1 strategy. Near doubles, plus 2 strategy. This one is a memory group, okay? Next one, plus 0 strategy, no change. Memory group, 0 strategy, again, memory group. But those really don't constitute too much. In most of them, you'll find here you've got 1 memory group, plus 1 more memory group, 0 strategy, memory group, doubles, plus 1, plus 2. This is a memory group 1. This is plus 2 strategy. You have very few. Memory group means that they don't fall into an easy pattern. Okay? We have another strategy. It's called the doubles plus 1. Near doubles plus 1. Okay? This one's a little bit trickier. Okay, again, we've got 4 plus 5. This is called a near doubles problem, right? Because we have the numbers, near doubles means these two numbers are side by side. When I see two numbers that are next to each other on the continuum, I call this a near doubles problem. And how do I do it? I double the smaller number and step up 1. Okay. So near doubles plus 1 is your next step strategy. Near doubles plus 1. Okay. Now these are getting a little bit harder, but at the same time we find fewer and fewer to do. Right? And plus the fact they're warmed up to it and they're having to think. And this is definitely a better way to try to solve and remember your operations than just memorizing all of them. Because then you're definitely on mental overload. And for some people who are bright, that's okay, but not everybody's in that category. Your job as a teacher is to help all the children come up to excellence, not just worry about the people that are going to do it anyway. Like they say, who was it was saying, you were saying in America, no, somebody was telling me, Prabhupada told Trivikram Swami, or he had said, in America, don't worry so much about preaching to the Indians. They're going to come anyway. Go for the people that need to know. You'll see, it does happen in America now that mostly Indians are going to the temples. That means the preaching's not so good. They're not reaching out to the people that aren't automatically going to come. So, with something like this, right? You're using your strategies on the harder ones now, because the easier things automatically you have done. You just focus on what's tough, okay? And then there are ways to figure out how to make that less difficult, okay? So this is a doubles, near doubles, okay? What's a near doubles plus 1? This is near doubles plus 1. Right. You step up 2 in this case, right? It's not 4 plus 5, right? It's 4 plus 6. So I double this, and then you step up 2. I double the 8, 4, I get 8, 9, 10. This is near doubles. This is near doubles plus 1. Or you may want to call this doubles plus 2, if that's as easy. You could do that. They call it near doubles plus 1. Sometimes I found it easier to teach doubles plus 2, because then you step up 2. So you double the smaller number, you say 8, 10. So maybe that's as easy. This one may be a little confusion because mentally you have to jump up 2 anyway. So you look for the smaller number. That means these two are actually far 2 apart. But you always double the smaller one. And if you want to say doubles plus 2, you could do that. They did teach near doubles plus 1 in the Rinki system. You double the smaller number, and you say 8, and if you want to do near doubles plus, if you want to do doubles plus 2, you say 8, 10. 4 plus 6 is 10. And also 6 plus 4 is 10. These will always be what?
Even numbers.
Even numbers. Okay? So they're not next to each other. Near doubles means they're next to each other. These will be odd. Near doubles plus 1 means they will all be even. Then you go through your chart. You first learn them on the board, all the possible combinations where they're actually 2 apart. Okay? So try anything like that. 5 plus 7. Tough number, right? Double the 5. 10. What do you get?
12. You're thinking your mind a
To
little.
try to remember 7 plus 7, they all start counting. I know, I've seen it here. In the West, they don't allow counting on fingers. That's just not heard of here. I don't know why they do
I
it.
still do it.
Oh, really?
You're going to count something.
Well, we were not allowed to do that. I don't know whatever, that was just nobody ever, I never even saw it until I came here.
You're not allowed.
Okay, I never saw it when I came here. So that's how you go about learning your addition facts. Lots of. We wanted to take a few moments to explain what materials are necessary for the teacher for giving the Spalding instruction, and then also we want to show what's essential for the students. One important and beneficial aspect of the Spalding program is its cost efficiency. It is not at all a costly program. It is dependent mostly on the teacher's dedication and knowledge of the system, and then the child's ability, with very simple materials, to learn the system. So here we wanted to show you, and some of these things are actually materials that we've added ourselves that are devotional. They're not actually Spalding materials, but we've implemented the Spalding program with devotional materials. So obviously the most important thing is the textbook. It's called The Writing Road to Reading by Romalda Bishop Spalding. And again, the program is very cost effective because one book contains the syllabus for teaching grades 1 through 8. Just one book. Everything that's needed is in this book. Right? The spelling procedures, the creative writing procedures, the reading procedures, as well as all the instructional materials. So one book again will last a homeschooling parent and a classroom teacher for 8 years. Now obviously other materials, you can use other materials as supplements if your school requires certain books, but even when I was in situations like that, I still use this as the basis, and then I would try to see what other books perhaps were supplementing this in some way, but I never departed from teaching what was in this book. I use that as the basis of my instruction. Accompanying this is a little guide booklet that I did for one of the seminars I did at Pathway School. And this, at a glance, shows all of the important features. I've given this out as a handout to many devotee parents and teachers. It's a little simple handout that will have the essential features that are in the book, just so people can get an idea, and even just keep this on the desk of what are the most important things I need to know and what are the important points I want to cover when I teach. So this again is just a little booklet that is a created pamphlet, mini guidebook to this book. Quite helpful actually, because otherwise the tendency is for a book like this all in black and white with only a few black and white pictures and nothing in color. Most parents would find this looks very difficult and perhaps too intimidating. Maybe an experienced classroom teacher might not find that way, but in the cases we're now dealing with, it's devotee parents who wish to adopt the system. So we've tried to make it as learner-friendly as possible. So again, these are materials that we have created to make the program easier and Krishna conscious as well. To give you an example, over the years I developed this little phonograms chart, and I think you can see the difference. Here it is in color and with little pictures, but the phonograms in black and white on the other side. We use this obviously for testing, but not for initial instruction, because it looks a little dry and again, a little intimidating. So the initial instruction with any age of student, be it a small child, as young as 3 years old, or with an adult wanting to learn the system, I took the time to, by color and pictures, break down the phonograms into areas that would make learning much simpler and much more fun as well. So this is another chart that we try to equip the teachers with when they're teaching the phonograms. Both sides are necessary. This is good for more advanced practice because the child has to eventually identify phonograms on the printed page, and most books are obviously just the print on the paper. There will be not all these colors. The flashcards are an important feature too, so we try to get flashcards made. All of the phonograms are on a flashcard, and on the reverse side, for the teacher's sake, are the instructions as to how to pronounce the phonogram. That's not shown to the child. The teacher shows the phonogram, and then the teacher is able to see 3 sounds and the representative words on the back. And only the sounds are given, not the representative words. So in this phonogram that is identified, it's the letter A, but it's sounded as a, ah. On the back, you'll see representative words such as at, maybe, and want. Those are not given to the child because it starts to add too much information for rapid decoding. But they're there for the teacher's guidance, so that the teacher knows that the a should be pronounced as in the word at, the a should be pronounced as in the word navy, and the a should be pronounced as in the word want. All right? So So these are the teacher's clues, the instructional clues on the back, and the phonogram is on the right for practice for daily drills. All 70 phonograms are on a flashcard. Then again, to assist practice, I took the time, and this was for the Pathways Seminar project, I took the time because many people ask me, how does it sound? How can I hear the sound? So I took the time to record that on a CD, and it's also accompanied by pictures. Now, not that those pictures are supposed to be used as an example, but it's just an attempt to keep the children in Krishna consciousness. So whatever is on this CD, you'll see now we had those images made into a chart that can go into the classroom. This is a flex chart. And you'll see all the phonograms here. And on this CD, you'll see the pictures. Like there's a bug, and there's a photograph there of Balaram here in Vrindavan. And because you'll see a little cow, you'll see Damodar. But when they're taught, we do not say that. We just want the children to quickly sight-see the phonogram and repeat the sound. So on the CD, these same images are used, all 70, and the sounds are pronounced, and then there's a brief period which the person can try to repeat the sound. So that's the chart. And then here I took the time, although this isn't so essential, but I took the time to take the 29 rules, and because there were so many, I broke them up into categories of A through F. So there was no more than 6 at a time. And on the back, so this is rule number 1, and the A represents is just the first category, section A, right? Section A. This is not given in the book, but rule number 1, and then on the back, you'll see is quote. This is the first rule. So all of the pronunciation, spelling rules are also on flashcards. And this is just, again, materials that I've added to help our children learn. And now we can practice. And if they know what's rule 2, on the back it's k's. Makes the sounds before the letters E, I, and I. Okay? So again, I've over the years supplemented with some of my own materials just to try to make the program easier and more student-friendly. Again, but the number of materials is not extensive nor costly. These are, again, just embellishments. These little charts in India, 50 rupees to make, and of course the little booklet's not so costly. Flashcards perhaps a little bit more. CD is minimal, maybe 10 rupees, 15 rupees. And then I was gifted at one point with this. I find this very, very handy, as you've been seeing, because we don't have to take the time to wash chalk from a board or have those pens on a whiteboard that dry up and sometimes produce a toxic smell. And they're costly too after time. You're having to replace them. So I've had this for many, many years, and there's no waste of paper. And in a small situation, it's sufficient. I don't have to have a board, blackboard, chalkboard in here, or whiteboard. But if you have a small whiteboard or chalkboard, that's also sufficient. So again, this is what is required for the teacher, and nothing too costly. Again, this might be a little bit of an expense, right? But not such a major one. And I somehow or other somebody saw what I was doing, and I was fortunate enough to be given this as a gift. Smaller ones are also available. There are littler ones. I have one here. But I still think the larger one is better if you're showing rows of things. But there are even smaller ones, and these could be used for the child too, to follow and practice. Smaller pies like that. Right, the child can do some practice without wasting paper, initial practice, especially small children, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, because our focus mostly is right now on the preschool level. Children prior to having reached the age of 5, 3 to 5 years of age. All right, any questions on that so far, the materials? Okay, Hare Krishna. Now we'd like to show materials that a student will require for the Smalley method. And again, you can see it's a very economical program. It's not a very costly endeavor. Most important thing is the notebook for the spelling vocabulary list of 2,300 words. So a larger notebook, it's larger in size, that is bound. A spiral notebook would not be so effective because with repeated turning of the pages, the spiral will start to tear the top and the bottom edges. So a notebook that has been stitched together is preferable. And again, spacing, especially for smaller children, that's wider at the beginning. So one large notebook for the spelling vocabulary notebook, primary spelling vocabulary notebook. Then a smaller notebook. This smaller notebook is for the rule book. This is a little book. This is essential for the intermediate level, but even for the smaller children, we use this for important practice lists. I used to give the beginning students the days of the week, excuse me, the months of the year, the colors. I would give them lists of words in here that just to familiarize them with everyday terms that we used. So a smaller little notebook is also very helpful and absolutely required at the 3rd grade for the intermediate spelling vocabulary notebook. It is a very important notebook. The essentials of the pronunciation spelling rules are recorded in this smaller notebook. The child needs a pencil. Now, a regular 6-sided pencil, size 2 or 2B, is recommended, and that's not a very costly item either. So that, and then she recommends again the 6 sides so that the child can get the proper grip, as we were discussing earlier, holding the hand. So the pencil, the notebook, 2 notebooks, again, not such a costly item. Here in India, these 2 items plus the pencil, plus a proper eraser, less than 100 rupees. And that's essentially all that's really required. For my children, I often did recommend that the parents, or sometimes I would get gifts of mechanical pencils. And it's a little bit of an extravagance, but not so much of one. And actually, these have quite an advantage. These particular 2 pencils are from the company Pentel, and they're a .09, size 9 lead. And the advantage of the mechanical pencil is that the child doesn't have to stop and sharpen the pencil regularly, and on top of that, the lines are always of uniform length. As the pencil starts to dull, the lines become a little thicker and the lead tends to smudge. So I find that this size 9.09 lead was ideal. If it's a 5, or 0.05, or 0.07, the tendency is it's too fine, the child will press too hard, and the finer leads will break. Whereas in this size 0.09, I've also had pencils like this made by the German company Stadler. And that size lead does not break easily, and it produces a nice clean line. And then of course, with that would be required a little packet of additional leads for replacement when the leads were down. And again, an eraser for both, whether you have a regular wood pencil with the 6 sides or you have a mechanical pencil. So 2 notebooks, a pencil, again, not a costly affair. The children do not have a speller. The speller is their own work. And all of the information is done in dictation form so that the child connects the written word with the spoken word, with the spoken sound. In other words, how do we hear the sound? How do we record it in written form? That's called the phonogram. All right. I had little blank books for the children for mind mapping, just plain book like this. Mind mapping is always done on plain paper, held at a horizontal position. So these are very handy, and when we taught art also, we didn't teach it, we let the children do paintings at home and bring them to the classroom and share. We did that on smaller plain paper, and we would mount the pieces in these little books, so they had actually a little, like an album of their own development in their art. So 1 or 2 of these books is very, very helpful, either as a mind map book for keeping notes in mind map fashion, or as a little album in in which their artwork is just a smaller size page. It's just pasted in, and then they can see the development of their artistic ability. Again, not a costly item. I think this is, again, less than 25 rupees, something like that. Again, the Western prices may vary and the materials will vary, but these are the things we had available. Then today we're going to do a little short lesson on another system I developed myself to make learning easier, colored pencils and colored markers. I taught grammar with the aid of color and diagramming, so it was visual, it was very visual. So a inexpensive set of colored pencils. This little set has 12 different colors, and this set of markers I think also has about 12 pens in it. And these markers and these little pencils you'll see applied when we're indicating in another practice book, or sometimes we would have just inexpensive textbooks that we didn't mind marking. We would mark the parts of speech according to a coded system of different colors. So these are very helpful for this. Again, one of my own little adaptations of using color to help children recognize parts of speech. So essentially the program is extremely inexpensive, and this again is all that they'll need for the 8 years at least of the Spalding method. Costly books on grammar and spelling and whatever writing information are not necessary. All of that is contained in the Spalding book. Okay. I wanted to demonstrate, for the sake of our teachers in training here and as well for any viewers, an adaptation I made for very, very small children. Sometimes my students were as young as 3 years, 4 months. So I would adjust, if I felt necessary, I would adjust some of the particulars. Earlier in the demonstrations, we saw that Spalding recommended that the children write half space and that the tall letters, half size space and the tall letters reach the top. But for very, very small children, a lot of time was spent just in samples of magic markers and staying within a line, practicing their eye-hand motor coordination. And once they had become skilled enough to do the 6 features correctly and to do the features in the alphabet and in the phonograms, then we started the spelling list. So this is the type of notebook that we use for the children. And again, it's not the ring type, it's the stone type, so that the turning of the pages doesn't loosen them or tear them at the top and the bottom. And this is the child speller. He does not have a printed out list. All that he has is what he has heard and repeated and written in his own speller. So the importance of having mastered handwriting is essential, so that he can actually read his own work very readily, and we would often practice these lists of words for reading practice. So the adaptation I made was to take a page and fold it in half for initial spelling words, because they were very small, very short. And I would, from the top red line, I would count down 3 lines and put a small X on that margin line. We would go 1, 2, 3 with a little X there, and 1, 2, and on the 3rd line put a very small X to indicate the baseline. So we would do 1, 2, 3, X, and then we created 10 spaces that way for writing the spelling words out. And the 10 is just ideal, because 10 words is what Spalding presents every day. The 10 is the amount of the lesson. And once they're done often enough, 10 words can be taught in 10 or 15 minutes. But at the beginning, it's quite a laborious affair until the children get used to the system. Then after a while, they do everything very quickly. So here we've entered the first spelling word, and we have, this is in section A through G. So I'll write that here at the top. Each spelling section should be indicated. So we'll write here section of the list. This is section where we print. Always we model for the children what it is we expect them to do. We cannot expect them to produce the writing as we've taught it and not model it ourselves. So we have section, And the first spelling section is called A through G. After that, each section, A through G, each section is just a single letter in the alphabet. So here we have section A through G, and it begins with the word me. We saw that in another clip. And E, and the E is underlined because it says its name. And the rule number for that is rule number 4. You see here the second spelling word was do. D, phonogram D, A, O, U, with a 3 over it to indicate that this is the third sound for that phonogram. I'll do one now for the camera so that you can just see how it appears and how it's to be done by the child. If the children were very, very small, I would do maybe quite a few lists on the left side and let the child do the same words to the right of the fold in the paper. That way they were not just expected immediately to copy from my little magnetic board. And I could sit here and help monitor their formation of the letters. But after they became experienced enough, they were able to actually watch the magnetic board and put the letter form in their own speller. So the next spelling word on the list is and. So again, we start at 2 o'clock, and we take help of the guidelines. So we go to top of the line there, and around to 10, and down to 8, and over to 4, and straight up to 2, and drop it down. And each time a letter is formed, I give the complete instruction, so it becomes a mantra in the child's mind. His intelligence is always directing his hand. And the next phonogram sound in the word and, the conjunction is n. So that begins with a straight line, short straight line, retracing up to the position of 10, curving over to 2 and dropping down to the base line. The pencil is then lifted, and the last phonogram is d. Okay, and that again starts at the position 2 as a reference point on the clock. 2, touching the midpoint line, over to 10, down to 8, back to 4, straight up again, and again we go up almost to the top, not quite, retracing, and we drop the line down to the base line. This particular word has only a single letter phonogram with the first sound, so we say no markings, right? So we have no markings. So this is how the speller looks for very little children, 3 to 5. As they get older, they can work on a half-size scale, as is recommended. But at the beginning, they actually need to see the size of the letter. My experience is they need to see the size of the letter so that they can get the positions correct. And then once they're practiced, then they can do it at a smaller size more effectively. Hare Krishna. Yesterday we had the strategies presented for the addition facts. And as you recall, we're using the Rigby system for learning strategies, and we're using the practice sheets from the Saxon program for drills. And again, this is aimed for children under 5, older children as well, children who are in need of a catch-up program, or perhaps their facts are weak. This works very, very nicely because it goes quickly and it gets them right back to operating level so that they can go back to the classroom and proceed. The Saxon book had these sheets in there and said in order for a child to be able to do any other operation, other levels of math, he had to be proficient in these 4 areas: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and be able to do this practice sheet in less than 4 minutes. So they use this as their standard for proficiency. No mistakes, less than 4 minutes. So we just adopted that to see when we felt the child was sufficiently equipped in his operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So the other day, again, we did the +0 strategy, the +1 strategy, the +2 strategy, the doubles, near doubles +1, or we can also call that the double strategy +2. And at the very end, we did the +9 strategy. Right. Did we record the +9 strategy? Yes. Okay, so that was also recorded. All right. Because addition and subtraction are inverse operations, I taught them consecutively. we taught these, I'm sorry, at the same time, because that way the children see the connection. So this sheet, in yellow here, we color-coded these practice sheets. This one is the subtraction facts. And again, it's 100 facts. So we show the children the same thing. Well, if I know certain strategies, my task, which is looks like a big mountain, we can start paring it up, paring it down. Right? Every time we learn a strategy, the mountain becomes a little less, what shall I say, intimidating. All right, and we also have learned with the multiplication and addition that we can pare it down to 50% before we begin. Not so easy with division and subtraction because the position does affect. But you'll see there are many strategies that we can still apply. All right, so after a child has learned all of the plus zero strategies in addition, we go to the subtraction chart, right? And what would be the logical step? Minus zero. Minus zero. So if we take the subtraction chart, and that will have the same strategy, there will be no change, right? If I find, now the zero will have in subtraction, there will be a difference. That zero will have to be the lower number. It will not be at the top, because we're not into advanced mathematics where we're dealing with minus numbers. So all of the zeros, the children will have a little easier job of it. They can take their finger and slide across each row of problems and scan to find a problem that has minus zero. And by now they've learned no change for plus zero. So the same strategy for minus zero is what? No change. No change. So as they do these, of course, they start to predict how to do it and what's going to be the answer. So again, as we're going to go through these a little more quickly, the child scans, we find how many minus zero problems. We task analyze, how many do we have to learn? We indicate that. We have the child slide along and identify them. And then we ask the child, next time through, slide along, read the problem out loud. Here we have 1 minus 0. And then the child will slide along here, and when he finds another, here's 0 minus 0. And he scans. It teaches him to be very attentive. Actually, his eyes, he has to be sharp. Here we have 8 minus 0. Okay? And if the strategy is no change, the child will say 8 minus 0 is, what will he say? No change. He will say 8 minus 0 is 8. And before he even begins the problem, for quite some time we ask the child, when they see a problem, they have to analyze it, even after they know all the strategies. And when they point to the next problem, they will say, oh, this is a minus 0 strategy problem. Or the next one, maybe this is a minus 2 strategy. Or this one may be minus 9 strategy. Or this one, instead of doubles, would be halves. Where we detect half. We see the two numbers where you know one number is the half of the other number. The half. So they identify the strategy before they call out the proper answer. Again, no change. This goes very quickly. These are practiced in many, many creative ways with timers. You can do them row at a time. You can do them column at a time. You can go from the bottom to the top. You know, it's just the variety helps keep the practice stimulating. Otherwise, it can become mechanical, and then you're not really testing their ability. But if you go in all directions and top and bottom and side, you can time a row, you can time the whole page, you can time a column, whatever. Whatever you find keeps the child's interest at a peak. So the first subtraction strategy is the same as the first addition one. For 0, no change. So the child by now should be able, as you should be able, to predict if the plus 1 strategy, if you recall, was step up. Step up 1. Then what would the minus 1 strategy logically be? Because again, you're trying to have children think, use their critical thinking abilities. So if I step up 1 for plus, what would I teach a child to do with a minus 1? He would step down, right? He would just step down 1. So for any minus 1, he would just step down. And this is where learning your consecutive numbers in reverse is helpful, right? The child can count quickly up to 10, but he should also be able to count quickly from 10 back down to 0. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Another reverse the procedure. So this would be his step. He steps down now. He steps down 1, right? Okay, so then again, first practice on the practice sheet with his accelerator, with his pointed finger. He looks and everything now will be on the bottom. This makes his sheet a little bit more challenging, but he's already had some, something more difficult. If you're prepared, it's not such a challenge. So wherever he sees a 1, he stops and he points to 1. He counts the number of problems like that. Here's one, number 1, and there's a number 1, and there's a number, that's 2 problems like that. Here's a third one. That way he can see how much of the that big mountain is really being reduced. Right? It's not such a big mountain. I'm now figuring out how many things I'm going to be able to do practically, automatically, and without separate, tedious memorization. I just have to think a little bit. So after he's identified the number of problems, Krishna, have you started? Yes. Okay, step down 2. All right. So again, the 2 will be on the lower part of the problem, and if they see a number 5 and it's step down 2, it would go 5, 3. They would count backwards, that's all. Stepping down 2. Just the way they silently said the second number in between, right? So they silently say the second number in between as they step down 2. And if it's 7, it would be 7 minus 2. Okay, they would step down 2. 7, 6, 5. Simple enough, I think. Okay. And again, it's a little bit more complicated, but if they know all of the, they've memorized counting by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. They've learned to recognize this is the total for doubles, right? So if they see any of these numbers at the top, and they know that half of this, right? They'll know that half of 4 is 2. So we call it halves. Now they didn't present that Rigby, but I did that with the children, because first we learn our doubles, and then we turn it over and do the halves. Right? So that if we saw a problem that was 10 minus 5, and it's taught, this is the reverse, 5 plus 5 is 10, you can use the word family again. The 5 double makes 10. So if they see the 10 on top and they know that this is to be alerted, it may not be their answer to this problem, right? It may be something else, 10 minus 4 or 10 minus 2. But if they recognize that what is being subtracted is 1/2, because they've already learned we double 5 to get 10, then they just know the response is 5. And you group those. You go through and you spot them. 19, it'd be 18 minus 9. 16 minus 8, 14 minus 7. Those could also be learned. You could really focus on those halves. Other strategies. Subtraction is a little bit more difficult, because if you have a 9 and then you have minus 4, again, the child has to really think a little bit. Well, this is almost, if this were doubled, this would be 8. So take the bottom number. If I double this. This would be like, the answer would be near doubles, right? If I double the 4, this would be 8, but it's 1 more. So instead of just 4, the family member is 1 more. It's 5. A little bit of thinking, subtraction would become more difficult. But if you're doing them in reverse, right away, that's what helps. That reinforces it. If he's learned that 4 and the near double, right? 4 plus 5 is a near double. I double the 4 and 1 and I get 9. Then you take him over to the other side. Right? And then the other 9. It can either be minus 4 or it could be minus 5. So all of these, that should be a 4. This is family. This is your addition one, and these are the two options. And then also, this is also your option, 5 plus 4. So this is a family, 5 and 4 and 9. These two combinations and these two combinations. Is that okay? They really do start thinking quite a bit, and they can do it. And minus 9 is also a strategy. Minus 9. And it is the reverse of plus 9. So if you remember when we did plus 9, we took the other number and dropped down 1. But with minus 9, it's the reverse. If we have 16 minus 9, well, you can do all the minus 9s, and you can see the pattern. Starting with 9 minus 9. That's the other one. Oh yes. If the numbers are the same in subtraction, the answer will be 0. These are just slightly different strategies. If both of the numerals.
No, this is the fourth strategy, this one? Or is this
I'm sort of jumping around a little bit now, but because it's not as systematic as adding. But if both numerals are the same, right? If you have 9, then you take away 9. Then what will happen? Your answer will be 0. It's not the same as subtracting 0. Subtracting 0 is no change. But if a number is taken from itself, then we have nothing left. So if you see 8 minus 8, they can scan. How many of those are there? 7 minus. You learn to group them. And that way, each time they see this as part of a certain strategy. 3 minus 3. All of these are on the board. And then you count how many of them you have. Okay, and you study those. And then eventually they tell, this is very simple. The number is the same. It's not doubles. The answer to these will all be 0. Right? A number taken from itself will always give me 0. So there'll be 10 of those, right? 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. 0 from 0, give 0. So 10 problems right there, like this. The answer is 0. All right? Just teaching to think. It's fun too. It's fun to solve problems this way. Okay, and then if the problems is the larger ones that are minus 9, right? So we had 9 minus 9, and then the next step would be like 10 minus 9, and the next going up, right? Counting up would be 11 minus 9. There's a strategy. You'll see the pattern pretty soon. 12 minus 9. Remember when it was plus line? The pattern was that you take the other number and you drop it down 1 and say 10 or 10, right? If it's 7 plus 9, you drop the 7 to a 6 and say 16, because you've taken 1 from the 7 and put it to the 9. So it's 6 plus 10, 16. All right, so now we do the same thing in reverse. This one obviously is a simple strategy. We get 0. Okay. And 10 and 9, we've got, that's another strategy. If numbers are obviously just next to each other, the difference will be 1, right? That's another strategy. You see how easy these are. But these other ones follow on. So if these numbers, like 4 plus 5 and 9 plus 8, those are they're next to each other. But in this, if the numbers are next to each other, then your answer will always be 1, right? 8 minus 7, 6 minus 5, 4 minus 3, 2 minus 1. If the numbers are adjacent to each other on the numerical scale, then that strategy is, well, there's only one step between them. So my response is always 1. Every single problem, you could practically find a strategy for. There are very few that are just in the memory group. And it's a creative task for the children, because they don't see these just as I have to memorize 11 minus 9, I have to memorize 12 minus 9. These are the 9s are difficult just to memorize like that, but if you know the strategy, they look for that instead. They see 9 and say, there's a strategy problem. So the answer, remember we dropped down 1 when we did plus 9, we go up 1 when we do minus 9. Okay? So if I go up 1 from 1, what do I get? I go up 1 from 2, what do I get?
3.
So that's my strategy. Right? I look at the numeral above, and I step up 1. That's my answer. 9s are always a problem. This is a very easy way to do it.
This is when there's a gap in between.
This is for subtraction. Okay? Let's try a bigger one. 16 minus 9. Okay? I look at the 6, change it to a,
Oh, when it's 9. When it's 9.
yes. When you see a 9 down here, I look at the other number and increase it by 1.
This is the receipt.
That's all. That's all. You see the pattern?
And you can do it. Oh, but you can't do it when it's the other way. can you?
No, because it's always on the bottom. But you just increase. In addition, we didn't increase, we decreased by 1. Remember? Right? When I wanted to add 6 plus 9, I decreased the 6 to a 5 and said T. Because I was adding. 6 plus 9 is the same thing as 5 plus 10. Right? So that's the reason behind this. I've shifted one number from the top to here. Now here, this is not 10, it's 9. If this were 10, 12 minus 10, the answer would be 2. But 9 isn't 10, it's 1 less. So if I add 1 more to 2, I get 3. You take them through that. It's really good for the brain because they'll see what's happening. So when you see a 9 at the bottom, you take the other number and you increase it by 1. Because you're not taking away 10, you're taking away only 9. Let's do some more of this. We'll take 15 minus 9. Okay? So I have a 5. If I increase it, 6 is my answer. Now let's take a look practically what happens. 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 9 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, sorry. Scribble that guy out. 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here we have 15. And here we have 5 plus 4 is 9. All right, if I take away from 15, 9. If this were 10, one more, right? If this were 10, I would have how many left? Theoretically, let's just say this is not, I would have 5 left. But it's not 10, it's 1 less, right? So that means instead of 5, I have 5 and 1 more. I have 6 left. Because 9 is 1 less than 10. This is how Vedic math is taught. Vedic math, they do a lot of this. They do a lot of this. They can start to do big numbers this way. Okay? So the strategy is, if I see a minus 9, I take the number above it, and I increase it by 1. That will be my answer. You can test it, and we'll test it some more. Let's do 16 minus 9.
7.
What's my answer? 7. It's so quick.
Really quick.
It's very quick. Otherwise, these are very hard.
Yes,
Very
yes,
hard.
yes.
Let's try 13 minus 9. Right away. What is it? Good thing. 4. You just don't even have to think, It's 4.
I'm always thinking and talking.
I know. What's 14 minus 9 quickly?
5.
Again, what if 14, her face shows a puzzle. If it's 14 minus 10, what's my answer? 4. Next to it, I put 14 minus 9. This isn't as much taken away. I take away 1 less. So my answer has to be 1 more than 4. It has to be 5, right? If 9 is next to 10, right? 10s are easy to deal with because you don't change anything. 10s are very easy to deal with. So 9 is right next to 10. 14 minus 10, said she. Answer is 4. 9 is difficult to deal with unless I know a strategy. Because 9 means I'm not taking, I have 14 cupcakes and I give away 10. I have 4 left. 14 cupcakes, oh, one person didn't show up. I only have to give away 9. So I'll have 1 more cupcake. I won't have 4 left, I'll have 5 left. So the strategy is, I just go up 1. Right? Because I haven't had to take that much away. I've only had to take 1 less away. So are you able to follow that okay now? You can catch it, huh? It's quick. And you just look at the upper number, the minute you see a 9, oh, that's that strategy, right? 15, quickly, without even writing the answer. 6. 15 minus 9 is 6. This is very helpful when you're doing bigger problems, 2, 3, 4, 5 column problems, and you're subtracting and then carrying over. Children know all these strategies. They're able to do bigger problems very quickly. Same with plus 9, 5 plus what's 5 plus 9? Quickly.
5 plus 9, 16.
No.
5 plus 9.
5 plus 9.
Plus 9, 16.
No.
So 14.
14, right.
14.
You drop down.
Yes,
Right, you drop down.
14.
Right. But when it's minus, you go up. You add 1 up. 1 up, 1 down. 1 up, 1 down. And then let them see the logic. You put out some straws, you can put out something, you can see, move things around so they can see what's happening. Because 10 is a very easy number to deal with, and 9 is right next to it. So anchor your information onto dealing with 10. You just went away from 10, right? Okay, so without looking now, let's just give you a few addition subtraction problems and see how you do. Just think. Okay, what would be 3 plus 9? Good. Right, you drop down 1. 3 plus 9 is 12. You drop the 3 down to a 2. Okay, what would be 6 plus 9? 15. 8 plus 9?
16.
Right. She just said the drop down. What's 8 plus 9? Oh, we said that. Okay, what's 9 plus 9?
18.
That's a double also. 2 strategies on that. Okay, what is 4 plus 9?
13.
Okay, you see how quickly it goes. 5 plus 9?
14.
14. All right, now let's go in reverse. Let's try with the teen number and going backwards. Right, the 9 is being taken away. Okay, 16 minus 9. Now what do? 7. You just go up 1. You just practice like that. You can practice with a written form first, then practice just orally. And just mentally thinking it through. All right? What's 12 minus 9? 3. You just go up 1. And 6 minus 9. I mean 16. Did we do that? 16 minus 9 is what? 7? Okay, let's do 17 minus 9. 8. Simple.
That's so big.
Right, we just practice and go through. Keep explaining the understanding. Don't let that become apparent either.
Can you just go through that?
Okay. The minus 9s, right? It's the underlying explanation. Right, like as I did side by side. All right, minus 9. Okay, we'll give an example. If we have the number, let's start with the 12. 12 minus 10, right? Because they're adjacent. So we know that whatever happens is going to be close. Okay. 10s are very easy because we're just, we have a 0 there. So 12 minus 10 will give us what? Let's see. 2. Is that ones cancel each other out. So all you have is the 2. All right. Let's say we drop down from 12, 1 less. We're subtracting 1 less from 12. Minus 9. Okay. 12 cupcakes. 10 people show up. What's left? 2 cupcakes. Okay. 12 cupcakes. 10 people don't show up. 1 less person shows up. So instead of 2, if I have 1 less taken away, that means I have 1 more left. one more than the 10.
So you change the 9 into a 10.
Well, in your mind to understand it, because we did that the other way too.
That's what I'm just trying to figure out, the trick.
The 3, because the 3 means that if I have 12 little cupcakes, right? 12 cupcakes, right? 4 rows of 3. Okay, I take 10 of them away. If I take 10 of them away, then only 2 are left, right? Over here, if I do 1.
Yeah.
And you may need to do these types of things with the children too. If I take 10 of them away, 2 are left, okay? If I take 9 of them away, you may need to do that. And they'll learn to see, well, 10 people, obviously I'm not going to have as many cupcakes left. If one less person shows up, that means I get 1 more cupcake to myself, right? I thought 12 people were coming. 12 people didn't show up for the party. 10 showed up. So each got a cupcake, and I had 2 left over. That's easy to do. Next time I had guests come, I had 12 people invited. 10 didn't show up. 9 people showed up. So I had how many left over? 3. And when I look at that, comparing it, that's 1 less than 2 left over. It's 3. So I see the 2, right? I'm sorry, it's 1 more than 2 left over. It's, instead of 2 left over, I have 1 more, because not as many people showed up. So instead of 2 left over, I now have 3 cupcakes left over. You may need to do that to see, visualize it, but the strategy is quick. 9 means if I'm subtracting, that 2 goes up 1. Okay, let's take 14 quickly, minus 9. This 4 becomes what? A 5. And if you need to, you can draw it out again. But this is quick. You need to draw it out until you have the concept. If you don't have the concept, then you're memorizing. The idea of a concept is you don't have to memorize. You're applying a strategy. Okay? 16 minus 9? 7. If it were 16 minus 10, it would be 6. So very good. And then you drill those. Okay, so now let's try it. What's 17 minus 9? 8. And 15 minus 9? 6. And 14 minus 9? 5. So, but teach the concept, don't just make it another paired problem. Because then the child actually practically sees what's happening.
So then the trick is that the 2 will just go up?
Yeah.
Or whatever number.
For subtraction you go up, which is the reverse, and for addition you go down. Okay? Because if I have 9 plus 5, reverse it again. And also teach families. 9 and 5 and 14 are a family. They'll learn to see that. And here's another way you can do that. You can do it in sentence form. Addition and subtraction can go in reverse. You draw a line like this. This is the addition side of the family, and here's the subtraction side of the family. I want to try 9 plus 5. Okay? And the answer is what? You can write in sentence form. If I see 9, what do I do? Take one down. Yeah, right. So my answer is what? 14. Okay. Now, on the other side, we start with 14, right? And I subtract 5. Okay? And what's my answer going to be? No. It's nice for them to start to learn to see families like that. Addition and subtraction in sentence form reversed. Okay? And then you can even come up and you can think of strategies. Okay, 14 minus 5. That might be a little tricky. But if it were 14 minus 4, what would be my answer? 14 minus 4 would be what? 10. But somebody took away one more. So it's 14 instead of 4, it's 14 minus 5. So what do I get? 9. You know, it just takes a little brain gymnastics of the brain, but playing around with numbers like that, they'll learn to just see right away patterns moving up and down, solving problems by checking against things they know. Is that good? You understand it better now? Okay. Go up if it's subtraction, with a 9. Go down if it's addition. So if it's 5 plus 9, it's going to be 5 plus 9 will be 14. Okay. 14 minus 9 will be 5. You went up. Nice to go back and forth. Saves a lot of time. It's not dependent on memory or very tiresome drills, and it gives them a better grasp of seeing the way mathematics work. They start to actually become mathematicians, not just memorizing math. Okay, so that's our minor strategies. All right, Krishna. Now we want to teach the strategies in multiplication. Usually many children get stumped on their times tables. So we'll be learning the 12s, up to 12s. I think in India they teach up to the 20s. And the ones we have, we're going to be dealing with the 12s. And maybe this sheet only goes up to the 10s, I'm not sure. I think this one just goes up to the 10s. Okay, so the thinking process, remember we talked about any teaching, is we figure out how to get out of the way the easiest things first and pare down the problems. We do things the first day the child came, younger or older. But especially, let's say we have a child that's coming and he's weak in his times tables, or maybe doesn't know them at all. Like we had this one Manaji, I told you, the boy was slow. He could hardly do any of them. And in 1 month he could do them in 4 minutes, all of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So the first thing we teach the first day, I teach 4 strategies. And we're going up to the 12s now. Okay, so I teach the times 0, the times 1, the times 10, and the times 11. None of which is difficult. So the first day, we're pruning off almost 40 problems. With almost no effort. Okay. Strategies now are a little different. Any number times 0, the answer will always be 0. I mean, if I say 5 times 0, or if I say 0 times 5, that means I have no groups, because multiplication means grouping. And division means actually breaking things up into groups as well. They're both being grouping, but for doing it in reverse. Okay. So if I say I have no groups of 5, I have no 5s. Right? 5 times 0. Okay. Again, you take out the sheet. Right? I see a 0. It can be on the top. It can be on the bottom. It won't matter. My answer is what? 0. Yeah, it will be no change. It's different, right? It's not as though the 5 doesn't change. It doesn't exist. It's 0 times 5. I don't have a group of 5. I have nothing. It's 0. So you scan and you count the number of those that you have. And then you indicate on for the child to see, I already know the answer to this many problems. I haven't done anything yet. I just learned one strategy. So he scans and he counts the number of times 0 problems. And then the second time he goes through, reads the problem, says 0 strategy, just 0 strategy. And his answer will be what? 0. So right away he can solve, within 5 minutes he can solve quite a few problems. All right? Simple enough. Then, the times 1 strategy. Any number times itself is the same number. So it's 5 times 1, or 1 times 5. Doesn't matter the position. You just say the number. You see a 1, and it's multiplication. You just call out the other number. Right? 5 times 1 is what? 5. What's 9 times 1? 3 times 1. So simple. You just say the number, right? The number times 1 is just the same as the other number. So you just repeat the other number. Just put R for repeat, the other number. Times 1 strategy. It's 7 times 1. 7. Just repeat the other number. 7. It just means I have one group of 7. I don't have more than one group of 7. Multiplication means grouping.
Yes.
Grouping. Okay. All right. Now, our tables are going to go up to 12. We surely jumped out on a lot of numbers. We didn't do the 2s, the 3s, the 4s, the 5s. Why are we going up to 10? Because it's so easy. We get the easy ones out of the way first. So it's like trying to cut a big cake, right? I just cut it away so I don't have to worry about too much. I'm trying to distribute it all. Okay? Now if I multiply by 10, what do? I just add a 0 to the other number. Alright? I just add it on. That's all I do. If it's 3 times 10, I just add a 0 to the 3. So I have 30. 7 times 10?
70.
So right away, the children, and what we would do is actually I would have them drill also in their minds. We would go through starting with 0 times 0 is 0, 1 times 0 is 0, 2 times 0 is 0, 3 times 0 is 0, 0. They would have to say them. What's 7 times 0?
0.
8 times 0.
18.
9 times 0. 10 times 0. 11 times 0. 12 times 0. So they know all the zeros. Right? Then times 1, we repeat the number. Okay, what's 0 times 1? Well, that was a 0, right? Because it has 0. 1 times 1? 1 times 2? 1 times 3? 1 times 4? 1 times 5? 1 times 6? You just say the number. So right away, within 5 or 10 minutes, they can do the zeros and the 1s. And then in another few more minutes, they can do the 10s. We just add a 0. Right? And we say them. 0 times 10 is 0. 1 times 10 is 1. 2 times 10? 20, 3 times 10, 40, 5 times 10, 6 times 10, 7 times 10. You could just do this in your head. You can also see it written down. I would have them also written down. Mental math. Just see, use your head. 8 times 10, 9 times 10, 10 times 10, 11 times 10, 110, just add a 0. 12 times 10. So now we've learned 12 of 3 facts, right? Now 11, strategy. Up to a certain point, you just repeat the number 2 times. Right? So 0 times 11 is going to be what? 0. 1 times 11 will be? Right, you just repeat the number. But 2 times 11, I just write the number twice. What will it be? 22. 3 times 11? 4 times 11? 5 times 11? Right. And then you have the child say all of them. And you can also have them scale on the chart. But saying them is good too, because then he can repeat all of his tables, his 0s through 12s. And then you can write them too, because that's important, because writing builds speed. You know, by writing it also strengthens. But also doing mental math is very powerful too, because that when they're handling big problems, and just at a glance, you know, they see it and they know what to write. So both practices are there. So then you do the 11s. Okay, 0 11s are 0, 1 11 is 11, 2 11s are 22, 3 11s are 33, 4 11s are 44, 5 11s are 55, 6 11s are 66, 7 11s are 77, 8 11s are 88, 9 11s are 99, 10 11s are 110, and now there's a strategy for the other two. strategy for the other 11 11s and 12 11s. Okay? 11, and this is a clever one. I learned this in the Vedic realm. 11 times 11 and 12 times 11. Now mind you, you see what happens when I know these, then when I get to the 12s, I know this one, I know the 12, right? Because everything's in reverse. Okay, 10 times 11 was easy. I just added a 0, right? So that was 110. Okay, when you go beyond the 10s, all right, this is getting a little more difficult. What you do is you take the other number, right, we have 11. So the other number in this case is 11, okay? You spread the two numbers apart. You take the two, and you have a 1, and you have a 1, okay? Add them up, what do you get? 1 to 1. That's your answer. Let's try it with 12. I'm multiplying 11 times a bigger number now. I'm going past what's just easy, where I just repeat a number, right? Now, 10 was easy too because I just had that 0. But now I take the 1 and I spread it apart and I put a 2 and I add them. Now let's see why that happens. Because it's important to know the concept, right? 12 times 11. Okay. So you take your first number, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1. And I do the same thing. 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 1 is 4. Let's take the end ones. Here's the 2, here's the 1, and what do I have in the middle? 2 and 1. It works. Let's try a bigger number. Let's jump. 16 times 11. Spread them apart.
171.
1.
It's 176.
No, I'm sorry, 176. I'm sorry, 176. Yeah.
176.
I take these two numbers and I put their sum in between. 176.
Oh, yeah. 11 is 1.
Yeah.
70 into 11.
Yeah.
187.
Yeah. 196. You know, like if it's 19, then that starts to jump, but even that's a 108.
If it's 19,
I think it's 108. Yeah. What's that?
then
Cut? All right, cut. Well, while we've been doing our training session with our two teachers in training, we've been blessed with a visit from a very nice family from Washington, D.C. And the reason we're asking them to speak is that their son Nimai, was it 5 years ago now? Almost 5 years ago, began the Spalding method, and there was very little time for him to learn it here. So just in a short time, his mother undertook the experience, learned the system herself, so that those of you who are parents can be reassured that a parent can do it. So I'm going to let her tell us a little bit about what happened, because she probably remembers the details better than I do. Hare Krishna, please introduce yourself and your family, and tell us your experience and what your feelings are.
Hare Krishna, this is my son Nimai, who is 11, going to be 12 in December, and my husband. We were here in Vrindavan 6 years back, and we had some business here, so we were here for a long time, and we found out about you and how you teach the Spalding method. So we came by and you showed us all the techniques, and in the beginning, I have to admit, it did appear daunting. I thought this is very, very difficult to follow, and I don't know how. But once you kept assuring, and then once I started seeing how Nimai was responding, and unfortunately, my husband fell sick. He came down with typhoid, so we had to rush to Assam, and it was there that I just kind of followed whatever Mataji had taught. I just tried to follow whatever we had learned from her, and we kept calling her from Assam just whenever we would get stuck with something. And it was amazing. The whole experience just completely transformed Nimai's reading ability, because before I came to Vrindavan, he was reading very, very simple books like Cat Sat on a Mat and those just very simple books. And within a span of 3 weeks, or for 2 weeks, he was suddenly now reading Krishna book, and he was reading the Bhagavatam plates, and his reading just completed. I was shocked, because honestly I was cynical. When I first started, you kept telling me that, let him get to the spelling list, let him get to, and I thought, how is it going to happen? But I actually saw that happen, and it really reinforced my faith in this whole process. And now my son is just a voracious reader. I mean, we just can't, he's just constantly reading, and he's working on a fiction novel that he's trying to incorporate spiritual principles in that book. And he's actually working with a professor an ex-professor from Harvard University, and so his interest in writing and reading actually took off from that point on. So I'm so grateful, and my son, just like right now, he said, I have to meet Yashoda Mai Mataji. She's the one who taught me, and I really would like to meet her. So he actually pulled us up right now. He said, it's only because of her that,
So Nimai, you want to tell us a little bit about your feelings when you were learning spalding, so you can hear
Yeah,
from
sure.
Go ahead.
When I just started, it appeared really hard for me. Like, you had to memorize all these tables and everything. But after that, I can't really remember much of that. But then I started reading much more complex books, and it really helped my vocabulary and my ability to articulate different words.
Wonderful. Father, would you like to add a few comments about it? Did you feel that you saw a change in Nimai too?
Yeah, when before we came here, I remember buying those books, the Bob books. And when we came here, one day she came back home very excitedly that I met this wonderful Mataji, and she's going to teach him reading. And when they used to practice at home, I used to, because I didn't know anything about it, I used to feel this is too complex. I mean, how is my son, who's just reading Bob Cat 7 on mat, how is he going to memorize all this? And within 2 weeks, I saw the transformation he underwent.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks.
Yeah, they really did it.
And this was really, because we tried different ways of reading before we came here, and none of them were satisfactory. But this was really very, the results were really amazing, and the process was definitely very scientific. So
It's very scientific.
yeah, it was
And
very.
actually, came here looking for an art class.
Yeah, he came here looking for an art teacher, but then we found the real education.
Anyway, I'm really happy that we had this Christmas arrangement, because Sri Yashoda Mataji, would you like to tell us now why you think this is going to help when you go back to Melbourne?
Hearing the
Right. You tell us now. Okay, tell us what's ahead. Tomorrow she leaves. She's been here for
I've just been here for 1 week, just from Australia to learn this from Mataji. So when I first came, I didn't really know anything about it other than that it was a good system. So we've been here for 1 week, and I can say that it's really just blown my mind. And the systems are incredible. I'm so excited to start it, and we have a Krishna homeschool group of devotees in Melbourne who we're just trying to start a little bit, and they're all waiting to learn this wonderful system.
Right, it's an amazing, not too many people know about it.
Right.
And actually we're so indebted to Yashoda Mai Mataji,
Yeah.
who's not obliged, and she's doing everything just so lovingly and caringly and giving
It's amazing.
everything.
Yeah. I actually bought this Spalding book in America before I came here. I bought this Spalding book before I came to Vrindavan, and I had it, and I looked at it and I thought, no way, there's no way I can understand this stuff. It was so difficult. But when you explained it, I guess it really needed someone who could sit and explain what this is, what are all these different sounds all about, and so I mean, really, we're so grateful to you. And
it just takes someone to crack the code.
yes, and after that, so many people would ask, like, where did you learn reading like this? And it was, then I kept telling people it's a Spalding method, but they could not do it, because unless and until you have a person who can really sit with you.
And in particular, in our case, after many years, we tried to figure out ways to speed up even the process by making the charts more colorful,
Yeah.
by adding, of course, Krishna conscious things, and now we have the CD, we have a flex chart we've made, so devotee families will feel inspired to undertake it. And more testimonials, because when we get more testimonials, then more people will see, well, maybe it looks difficult, but what we try to do is show people how it's simpler than you think.
Right.
And not be bluffing.
Yeah.
It actually, you just show them how, once you learn anything, even if someone looked at music and said, oh, my child will never learn that, but you send him to a music teacher, and in a week or two, he reads his music. So Spalding is nothing more than like learning a music program. He learns how to read the sounds and the indications for the sounds, and he makes those sounds. So it's the same thing. No one feels that no one could ever learn music. 5-year-olds are sent to learn music, so why should they not learn phonograms? It's the same thing.
This video is a great idea.
So I think it should encourage a lot of people, because it's a fact, the book, for someone who's an educator and he's used to technical material, he could probably figure it out. But we've tried to make things like little companion walkthrough booklets, so they have the information at a glance. We have the CD for tutorial, private tutorial. We have a flex chart. She has a flex chart now. Did you see the flex chart?
Yeah.
You saw the flex chart?
Yeah.
So we have tried to increase the number of learner-friendly materials so that more and more people can try the process. And now that there are more and more people going in for homeschooling.
Yeah, and this is the number one worry of people's mind when they start homeschooling. How am I going to teach my child? I guess this is the number one worry in most people's minds when they start homeschooling, is how am I going to teach my child how to read? It's like really, because schools, they go through so many different processes. So once you have this thing out of the way, then everything else is just a matter of comprehension, and that's all,
It's the basis.
It's the basis for everything.
Your homeschooling?
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about that?
Homeschooling? Well, I've been homeschooling him ever since. he only attended 1 year of kindergarten, and I just felt that this was before I came here, was it? Yeah. And at that time, we were paying so much money for a private school, and he was just learning one alphabet a week. I still remember one letter. He would come back, and I said, why am I paying so much money for him to learn one alphabet a week, which he already knows? So I guess, and also just and homeschooling was already on my mind. And once we met Arudha Mataji and met her two wonderful sons, I guess we were really inspired by that. So we decided to just follow her example and her way of homeschooling. So we've been homeschooling ever since, and it's just, what can I say? It's hard work, but it's well worth every moment. It's so nice when you can homeschool them, because they learn. You get the best of both academic as well as spiritual education.
And even with one child?
When I started, that was my biggest worry. Is
Lots
how
of
my
people are fearful
yes.
of their social life.
It was the biggest worry of my mind. How am I going to will he turn out okay? Will he be lonely? But by Krishna's mercy, I think, I don't know if I can say, I don't want to generalize it if it's going to work for everybody, but the reason it worked for him was, we found friends. We have a Bhagavad Gita, like a Namahatta Bhakti Vriksha, so he found friends through that. Also, he's the kind of person who likes to do things alone, like he likes to read and art, do artwork, and he loves to listen to lectures. So he's able to spend, maybe that's because he's the only child and he was homeschooled, so he's found ways to engage himself. So he doesn't really need people all the time. But at the same time, he has friends, and he has fun with his friends. He goes on sleepovers and just the regular stuff. So somehow it has worked out, because in the community that we live in, there is no other family homeschooling. So so it was the biggest worry on my mind. But it's worked out great. Right, Iman? Do you feel that?
I think I got more friends than I
Yeah, he has more. Yeah, sometimes I can't keep up with his social life. Too many sleepovers and friends. All the friends are from the temple or from our Bhakti Vriksha. And he has so many different activities that he engages in, so sports and art and music, so he gets enough interaction with the outside world.
So you don't feel you're missing out on anything?
No, definitely not.
You're happy? That's really good.
I think you can see how articulate he is.
Wonderful, brilliant. Yeah.
He's articulate, right?